You should ask him what.
Oh, I don't know. I just put in for observer.
Told you that the futuristic Blue Thunder was actually built from French parts? What if I told you that the futuristic Blue Thunder wasn't one helicopter, but 5 different aircraft? And the production's insurance costs nearly shut down filming before it started. The high-tech chopper that defined 80s action cinema held secrets that went far beyond its fictional weapon systems. Today, we're counting down 20 weird facts about Blue Thunder's Aerospatiale Gazelle helicopter from the 1983 film that will completely change how you see this legendary aircraft. From catastrophic rotor failures to a modification that French engineers said was impossible, these revelations might just blow your mind. Number 20. Blue Thunder was built from 5 different Gazelle helicopters. The production didn't use a single helicopter modified to look like Blue Thunder. They used 5 separate Aerospatiale Gazelle helicopters, each configured for different filming requirements. Columbia Pictures purchased these helicopters from various sources, spending approximately $2 million on aircraft acquisition alone. Helicopter number 1 was the hero aircraft for close-up shots and ground scenes. It had the most complete exterior modifications, including all the fake weapons pods, sensor equipment, and the distinctive angular nose cone. However, this helicopter was barely airworthy. The modifications added so much weight and created so much drag that it could only fly slowly in calm conditions. Helicopter number 2 was the primary flying aircraft. It had minimal modifications to maintain flight performance, but enough external changes to look like Blue Thunder from a distance. Most actual flight scenes used this aircraft. Helicopter 3 was the interior mock-up for cockpit scenes. It never flew and sat permanently on a soundstage. Helicopter 4 was the stunt aircraft for dangerous maneuvers. It had reinforced structure but simplified exterior modifications. Helicopter 5 was the crash helicopter, a damaged Gazelle purchased specifically to be destroyed. Coordinating these 5 aircraft created massive continuity challenges. The production had to carefully match which helicopter appeared in which shots to maintain the illusion of a single aircraft throughout the film. Number 19. The French manufacturers refused to support the production.
For the chase of your life on Blue Thunder, the ultimate weapon that can outrun, outmaneuver, and out...
Stuff to go through. I think in the neighborhood of 400.
Aerospatiale, the French company that manufactured the Gazelle helicopter, wanted nothing to do with Blue Thunder. When Columbia Pictures approached them for technical support, Aerospatiale declined. The company worried that showing their civilian helicopter modified into a weapons platform would damage their reputation and potentially harm civilian sales. Aerospatiale particularly objected to the film's premise of a militarized police helicopter. They felt it portrayed their aircraft in a threatening, authoritarian light, inconsistent with the Gazelle's actual role as a light utility helicopter. Without manufacturer support, Columbia had to hire independent helicopter mechanics and engineers who weren't affiliated with Aerospatiale. This created significant technical challenges. Official maintenance documentation was in French and metric measurements. Replacement parts had to be sourced through third-party suppliers at inflated costs. The production's chief helicopter mechanic, a former military aviation technician named James Gavin, spent months reverse engineering Gazelle systems to understand how to maintain them. Interestingly, Aerospatiale's refusal backfired spectacularly. Blue Thunder became a global hit, and the Gazelle helicopter became instantly recognizable worldwide. The film provided millions of dollars in free publicity, despite the manufacturer's objections. Aerospatiale later admitted, grudgingly, that Blue Thunder had significantly raised the Gazelle's profile, though they maintained the film misrepresented their aircraft's intended purpose. Number 18. Roy Scheider required anti-nausea medication for every flight.
Now let's take a look and watch the lady strut her stuff.
Roger, brother. This is March Control. Affirmative.
Roy Scheider, cast as pilot Frank Murphy, had a serious problem. He suffered from severe motion sickness in helicopters. This created an obvious challenge for a film where he'd spend hours flying in a helicopter. During initial test flights, Scheider became violently ill within 15 minutes. The production explored using a stunt double for all flying scenes, but director John Badeham insisted on Scheider being visible in the cockpit during flight sequences for authenticity. The solution came from an aerospace medicine specialist who prescribed a combination of scopolamine patches and meclizine tablets. These medications suppressed Scheider's nausea, but caused drowsiness and dry mouth as side effects. Before each flying day, Scheider would apply the medication patches 12 hours in advance and take pills 1 hour before flight. The medication made him slightly sluggish, affecting his performance. Badham had to adjust the shooting schedule, filming helicopter scenes in the morning when Scheider was most alert. Afternoon flying was limited to wide shots where Scheider's reduced energy wouldn't be noticeable. The medication also caused Scheider's pupils to dilate, creating continuity problems. His eyes looked different in flying scenes versus ground scenes. The production used colored contact lenses and careful lighting to minimize the visible difference. Despite the medication, Scheider still occasionally became nauseous during particularly aggressive maneuvers. Multiple takes were ruined when Scheider had to signal the pilot to land immediately. Number 17. The modifications made the helicopter dangerously unstable. Blue Thunder's angular, aggressive appearance wasn't just cosmetic. The modifications fundamentally changed the Gazelle's flight characteristics in dangerous ways. The Gazelle was designed with smooth, aerodynamic contours. Blue Thunder's angular nose cone, weapons pods, and sensor housings created turbulent airflow that destabilized the aircraft. The production's aeronautical engineers warned that the modifications would make the helicopter harder to control, but the film's visual requirements took priority. Chief stunt pilot Jim Gavin reported that the modified Gazelle handled completely differently than a stock aircraft. The additional weight and drag required constant pilot correction. Crosswinds that wouldn't affect a normal Gazelle could push Blue Thunder significantly off course. The weapons pods created asymmetric drag that made the helicopter want to yaw left constantly. Forward flight above 60 knots created dangerous vibrations as turbulent air came off the angular modifications and struck the tail rotor. The most dangerous modification was the nose cone. The bulky sensor housing disrupted airflow over the rotor disc, reducing lift efficiency by approximately 15%. This meant Blue Thunder couldn't hover as high or carry as much weight as a stock Gazelle. Several times during filming, the modified helicopter approached dangerous conditions. Gavin had to abort maneuvers and land immediately when the aircraft became uncontrollable. The production eventually limited flying to calm morning conditions when wind wouldn't exacerbate the stability problems. Insurance adjusters required Gavin to demonstrate he could safely control the modified aircraft before approving continued filming. Number 16. The cockpit was completely non-functional movie magic.
Come on, William Murphy!
Every switch, button, display, and control visible in Blue Thunder's cockpit was fake. None of it actually controlled the helicopter. The real Gazelle cockpit was completely stripped out and replaced with futuristic movie props that looked advanced but did nothing. The actual flight controls were relocated and simplified. Pilots flying Blue Thunder used basic stick, pedals, and throttle hidden below camera angles. All the impressive display screens showing computer graphics and targeting information were rear projection systems fed from offstage equipment. Production designer John Lloyd built the cockpit using a combination of aircraft surplus parts, custom fabrications, and repurposed electronics housings. The glowing displays were simply colored lights behind translucent plastic panels. The computer screens were small rear projection televisions playing pre-recorded graphics loops. When Roy Scheider appears to be operating complex systems, he's actually just pressing non-functional buttons in choreographed sequences. The weapon trigger on the control stick didn't connect to anything. The targeting system was entirely visual effects added in post-production. This elaborate deception required careful coordination. Actors had to time their button presses to match sound effects and visual effects that would be added later. The actual pilot, sitting behind and below the actors, had to fly the helicopter based on directional cues from the director, not from the actors' control inputs. Several times, actors accidentally hit real flight controls hidden in the cockpit, briefly overriding the pilot's inputs and creating dangerous situations. Number 15. The thermal imaging effect was created with infrared film stock.
Wash a little bit of light onto the structure of the plane itself. So it sort of started adding up pretty.
Blue Thunder's thermal imaging vision, where the helicopter could see heat signatures through walls, was cutting-edge visual effects for 1983. The effect was created using genuine infrared-sensitive film stock, originally developed for military reconnaissance. Cinematographer John Alonzo acquired surplus infrared film from a defense contractor and experimented with different exposure techniques. Infrared film registers heat rather than visible light, creating images where warm objects appear bright and cool objects appear dark. The production filmed scenes normally, then refilmed the same action using infrared cameras. In post-production, these infrared shots were color-tinted orange and composited over the normal footage to create the thermal vision effect. The technique had significant limitations. Infrared film was expensive, costing approximately 10 times more than normal film stock. The film was also temperature-sensitive and required refrigerated storage. Infrared filming required completely different exposure calculations than normal cinematography. Alonzo had to develop new lighting techniques specifically for infrared photography. The thermal effect only worked properly when filming outdoors or in controlled conditions. Normal interior lighting didn't provide enough infrared radiation to create usable images. For indoor thermal vision scenes, the production used powerful infrared floodlights that were invisible to normal cameras, but illuminated scenes for the infrared film. This groundbreaking technique influenced action films for decades. Thermal imaging became a standard visual trope in military and police films, but Blue Thunder was among the first to portray it convincingly. Number 14. The Downtown Los Angeles Chase. Required 63 filming permits.
Have certain slants so that it didn't bounce into camera. And, given
the climactic helicopter chase through downtown Los Angeles required the most complex permit coordination in film history up to that point. The production needed to fly helicopters between skyscrapers, under bridges, and through urban canyons. Each location required separate permits from different jurisdictions. The Los Angeles Police Department, Fire Department, Federal Aviation Administration, California Department of Transportation, and multiple private property owners all had to approve the aerial filming. Securing these 63 separate permits took 8 months of negotiation. Several building owners initially refused, fearing helicopter crashes into their properties. Columbia Pictures had to provide proof of insurance coverage exceeding $50 million. The FAA imposed strict conditions on the flying. Helicopters could only fly specific routes at specific times. Altitude restrictions prevented flying below certain heights in most areas. Speed limits were enforced to ensure pilots could abort maneuvers safely. Downtown streets had to be closed during filming to prevent debris from rotor wash injuring pedestrians. This required additional permits and police coordination. The production paid for officers to block streets and control traffic during each flying sequence. The permit conditions were so restrictive that the downtown chase appears to be one continuous sequence, but was actually filmed over 47 separate days spread across 6 months. Each day's filming captured only seconds of usable footage. The production schedule had to remain flexible because permits specified exact dates. Weather delays meant forfeiting permit days and reapplying for new dates. Number 13. Stunt pilot James Gavin crashed during the bridge fly-under. The sequence where Blue Thunder flies under a highway bridge nearly killed stunt pilot James Gavin. The maneuver required flying a heavily modified, aerodynamically unstable helicopter at high speed through a confined space with minimal clearance. Gavin had practiced the maneuver dozens of times, building confidence that he could thread the helicopter through the bridge opening safely. On the day of filming, wind conditions were marginal, but within acceptable limits. Multiple cameras were positioned to capture the stunt from different angles. Gavin began his approach at 60 knots, faster than he'd practiced, to make the shot more dramatic. As the helicopter entered the bridge shadow, turbulent air coming off the bridge structure hit the rotor disc. The Gazelle suddenly dropped 3 feet. Gavin's rotor blades came within 18 inches of striking the bridge underside. He instinctively pulled collective pitch to climb, but this increased rotor blade angle and brought them even closer to the bridge. For approximately 2 seconds, Gavin was certain he would strike the bridge and crash. Through exceptional skill and luck, he managed to thread through the opening, but the helicopter was completely out of control on the other side. Gavin fought to regain control while the Gazelle yawed violently. He managed to land the helicopter roughly in an empty parking lot, damaging the landing skids. The helicopter was grounded for 3 days of safety inspections before returning to service. Director John Badham declared the stunt too dangerous to attempt again. Number 12, the whisper mode. Sound effect. Was recorded from a vacuum cleaner. Blue Thunder's whisper mode, where the helicopter supposedly became nearly silent, was pure fiction. Helicopters cannot actually be made silent due to the physics of rotor blades cutting through air. But the film needed a distinctive sound for whisper mode that was quieter than normal helicopter noise, but still audible to audiences. Sound designer Frank Warner experimented with dozens of different sounds before finding the perfect whisper mode effect. The final sound came from a Hoover vacuum cleaner running at reduced power. Warner recorded the vacuum cleaner motor at different speeds, then processed the recordings through audio filters to remove obvious vacuum cleaner characteristics. He layered these processed vacuum sounds with very quiet recordings of actual helicopter sounds, creating a composite that sounded like a helicopter running at reduced volume. The whisper mode sound also incorporated recordings of electric motors, computer hard drive noises, and synthesized tones. Warner mixed approximately 15 different sound sources to create the final whisper mode effect. Interestingly, the whisper mode sound became so iconic that people who'd seen Blue Thunder later reported that real helicopters sounded wrong because they didn't have the whisper mode effect. Warner's fictional sound design was so convincing that it reset expectations for how high-tech helicopters should sound. Later films incorporated similar quiet helicopter sounds, building on Blue Thunder's fictional acoustic signature. The vacuum cleaner-based whisper mode became one of cinema's most successful audio illusions, convincing millions of viewers that silent helicopters were technologically possible. Number 11. Malcolm McDowell refused to fly in the helicopter.
I like being a passenger.
Malcolm McDowell, cast as villainous pilot Colonel Cochran, absolutely refused to fly in helicopters. He had a deep phobia stemming from a near-crash experience years earlier. This created a significant problem because his character was supposed to be an expert helicopter pilot engaged in aerial combat. The production explored several solutions. They considered recasting, but McDowell was already contracted and replacing him would be expensive. They considered CGI, but in 1983 that technology didn't exist. The final solution involved creative editing and stunt doubles. Every shot showing Cochran's helicopter in flight used stunt pilot Jesse James flying the aircraft. McDowell only appeared in ground-based scenes, or in the stationary cockpit mock-up on the soundstage. For shots requiring Cochran visible in the cockpit during flight, the production used a helicopter-shaped pod suspended from a crane. The pod could be swung around to simulate flight motion while remaining safely on the ground. McDowell sat in this simulator with a blue screen behind him. Flight backgrounds were added in post-production. The simulation worked, but McDowell still hated it. The crane-suspended pod made him nauseous and anxious. His discomfort is actually visible in the final film. Cochran appears tense and rigid in the cockpit, which accidentally enhances the character's intense, unstable personality. What appears to be brilliant acting was actually Malcolm McDowell being genuinely terrified in a crane-suspended pod. Guess number 10. The production destroyed a real Gazelle for the crash scene.
Big Brother, you want it on or off?
What's Big Brother?
The climactic crash that destroys Blue Thunder wasn't miniatures or special effects. The production actually crashed a real Aerospatiale Gazelle helicopter. This decision was controversial and expensive, but director John Badham insisted on realism that models couldn't provide. The production purchased a damaged Gazelle that had been declared non-airworthy after a hard landing accident. The helicopter's frame was compromised, making it unsafe to fly, but structurally intact enough to look convincing on camera. Special effects coordinator Joe Lombardi prepared the helicopter for its destruction. He removed all fuel and hydraulic fluids to prevent fire. He reinforced certain structures to ensure the crash happened in a controlled, predictable manner. Explosive charges were placed strategically to fragment the helicopter at the right moments. The crash was filmed at an abandoned industrial facility with multiple cameras running at high speed to capture every detail. The Gazelle was suspended from a crane, then released to fall 60 feet onto concrete. As it impacted, the explosive charges detonated, fragmenting the helicopter into pieces. The crash sequence appears to last about 15 seconds in the film, but was actually over in less than 3 seconds. The high-speed cameras captured enough detail that editors could slow the footage down dramatically. The destroyed Gazelle yielded approximately 40 seconds of usable crash footage that appears throughout the film's climax. Pieces of the wrecked helicopter were kept as souvenirs by crew members. Number 9. The Gatling gun. Sound was recorded from a dentist's drill. Blue Thunder's fictional 20mm Gatling cannon needed a distinctive sound that communicated raw firepower without using actual weapon audio. Sound designer Frank Warner wanted something mechanical, aggressive, and terrifying. He experimented with dozens of sounds before discovering the perfect base layer, a high-speed dental drill. Warner visited his dentist's office with recording equipment and captured the ultrasonic whine of the drill at maximum RPM. He then layered this sound with recordings of industrial machinery, motorcycle engines revving, and actual machine gun fire slowed down and pitch shifted. The composite created a sound that felt powerful and futuristic, while remaining believable as a rotary cannon. The Gatling gun sound required 12 separate audio tracks mixed together. Each track contributed specific characteristics. The dental drill provided the high-frequency whine, motorcycle engines added mid-range growl, and slowed machine gun fire created the percussive impact rhythm. Warner spent 3 weeks fine-tuning the mix until director John Badham approved. The fictional weapon sound became so iconic that later films borrowed the technique. Military video games and action movies still use similar composite sounds for Gatling-style weapons, all tracing back to Blue Thunder's dentist drill foundation. Number 8. Warren Oates died before completing his scenes. Warren Oates, cast as Captain Braddock, died of a heart attack in April 1982 during production. He'd completed approximately 70% of his scenes, leaving the production in crisis. Director John Badham faced difficult choices: halt production and recast, potentially losing millions of dollars, or find creative ways to complete the film without Oates. The production chose to continue by minimizing Braddock's remaining scenes and using creative editing. Several planned sequences featuring Braddock were rewritten to exclude him or reduced to brief appearances. For shots requiring Braddock's presence, the production used a body double filmed from behind or at distance. One critical scene required Braddock delivering dialogue. The production hired a voice actor who could approximate Oates' distinctive gravelly tone and recorded the lines. They filmed the body double from angles where lip sync wasn't visible, then added the voice actor's dialogue in post-production. The solution worked well enough that most viewers never realized Oates hadn't completed filming. The production dedicated the film to Oates' memory, acknowledging his contribution despite the incomplete performance. This tragedy forced innovations in how productions could salvage films when actors died mid-production, techniques still used in modern filmmaking. Number 7. The night vision effect required filming. Everything twice.
Lineman fit. What brings you to air support?
Oh, I don't know,
Blue Thunder's green-tinted night vision sequences weren't simply color-corrected normal footage. They required filming every scene twice using completely different techniques. Cinematographer John Alonzo developed a system using image intensifier technology borrowed from military night vision equipment. The production rented genuine military-grade image intensifier tubes and mounted them onto modified film cameras. These intensifiers amplified available light by 50,000 times, allowing filming in near total darkness. The intensified image was then photographed onto film stock. However, the intensified image had severe limitations: extremely shallow depth of field, heavy grain, and blooming around light sources. To create usable night vision footage, Alonzo had to carefully control lighting conditions. Scenes were filmed in near darkness with precisely positioned low-intensity lights providing just enough illumination. The intensifier tubes amplified this minimal light into visible images. The green tint came from the intensifier tube's phosphor screens, which naturally produced greenish images. Post-production enhanced this green cast for dramatic effect. Each night, vision sequence took 4 times longer to film than equivalent normal scenes. The camera crew worked in near darkness, unable to see what they were filming without looking through the intensifier viewfinder. Focus pulling became nearly impossible, so most night vision shots used deep focus techniques. Number 6. Blue Thunder's paint scheme changed 3 times during production. Blue Thunder's distinctive dark blue and black color scheme wasn't the original design. The helicopter went through 3 complete paint jobs during production, as director John Badham changed his vision. The first paint scheme was gunmetal gray with red striping, intended to look aggressive and military. Test footage revealed the gray helicopter was nearly invisible against overcast skies and looked washed out in bright sunlight. So the second attempt used matte black across the entire aircraft. This looked spectacular in some conditions, but created different problems. Black absorbed heat, causing the helicopter's skin temperature to rise dangerously high during sunny filming days. The heat expansion created structural stress and made the cockpit unbearably hot for actors. The final design used midnight blue as the base color with black accents. This combination photographed well in various lighting conditions while avoiding the heat problems of pure black. The blue had a metallic flake that caught light, making the helicopter visible and dramatic even against dark backgrounds. Each complete paint job required 3 days and cost approximately $15,000. The production spent $45,000 just on paint schemes before finding the right combination. Continuity became a nightmare, as different scenes showed slightly different paint schemes depending on when they were filmed. Number 5. The rotor blades were intentionally weakened for visual effect. Blue Thunder's rotor blades flexed dramatically during flight, creating an aggressive, powerful appearance on camera. This wasn't natural helicopter behavior. The production deliberately weakened the rotor blades to make them flex more than normal. Standard Gazelle rotor blades are rigid fiberglass and carbon fiber composites designed to maintain precise shape under all flight conditions. The production replaced standard blades with modified versions using thinner layup and reduced structural reinforcement. These weakened blades would flex and bend more visibly, especially during aggressive maneuvers. The modification was dangerous. Helicopter rotor blades are precision engineered with specific stiffness characteristics. Weakening them risked catastrophic failure if they flex beyond design limits. The blades could delaminate, crack, or completely separate from the rotor hub. Chief Pilot James Gavin was initially horrified by the modification and refused to fly with weakened blades. The production brought in an aerospace engineer who calculated safe flex limits and designed blades that would bend visibly but remain structurally sound within normal flight envelopes. The compromised blades flexed approximately 30% more than standard blades while maintaining adequate safety margins. Gavin agreed to fly with them under strict conditions. No aerobatic maneuvers, limited speed, and constant vibration monitoring. The visual effect was spectacular, making Blue Thunder look powerful and dangerous. But it came at real safety costs. Number 4. The studio lights required to film night scenes consumed entire city blocks of power.
70 degrees at 12. Blue Thunder to base, final approach.
Blue Thunder's night flying scenes required unprecedented lighting levels to expose film properly while maintaining the illusion of darkness. Director of photography, John Alonzo needed enough light to film helicopters in flight, but couldn't make it look like daytime. The solution involved massive arrays of specialized lights positioned throughout filming locations. For the downtown Los Angeles night chase, the production deployed over 300 studio lights, ranging from 2 kilowatt to 20 kilowatt units. The combined electrical load exceeded 2 megawatts, enough to power approximately 1,500 homes. The Los Angeles Department of Water and Power had to install temporary high-voltage feeds to supply this massive power demand. Several neighborhoods experienced voltage drops during filming as the production drew enormous current. The lighting setup required 12 full-time electricians working in shifts. Each filming location needed days of preparation to position lights, run power cables, and test illumination levels. The lights created other problems. Massive heat output made filming uncomfortable, and the intense illumination attracted thousands of insects that appeared as visual noise in footage. The lighting also drew curious crowds who could see the artificial daylight from miles away. Police had to establish larger security perimeters than normal to keep spectators away. The electrical costs alone exceeded $40,000 per night of filming, not including equipment rental and crew. Number 3, Candy Clark's character was added after test screenings. Candy Clark's character, Kate, didn't exist in the original screenplay. Test screenings of an early cut revealed a significant problem. The film had almost no female characters, making it feel dated even in 1983. Focus groups specifically mentioned the lack of women as a weakness. Columbia Pictures ordered reshoots to add a female character, creating Kate, the television news producer. This presented massive challenges. Primary filming had wrapped months earlier. The helicopters had been sold or returned. Roy Scheider had moved on to other projects. Director John Badham had to write Kate into the existing story without contradicting completed footage. The solution was inserting Kate into scenes that could be filmed separately and edited into the existing cut. Most Kate scenes show her alone or with characters in static locations requiring minimal integration. Her helicopter ride with Murphy was filmed using the stationary cockpit mock-up against blue screen, avoiding the need for actual helicopter filming. The rushed edition shows in the final film. Kate's storyline feels disconnected from the main plot. Her relationship with Murphy develops implausibly quickly. Several scenes feel like obvious insertions rather than organic story elements. Despite the awkward integration, test audiences responded positively to Kate's presence, validating the expensive reshoots. Number 2, the helicopter's registration number was deliberately chosen for military realism.
Hear that, Colonel? You want to show me that loop, Murphy?
Blue Thunder's tail number, N230HT, wasn't random. The production's aviation consultant carefully selected it to enhance the military authenticity illusion. Aircraft registration numbers follow specific patterns based on country of origin. N numbers indicate United States registration. The consultant chose a number sequence that resembled military helicopter designations, while remaining technically civilian. The HT suffix was deliberate, helicopter transport, mimicking military designation conventions. Most viewers wouldn't consciously recognize the tail number's significance, but aviation enthusiasts and military personnel would subconsciously register the authentic feeling designation. The registration number created an unexpected legal complication. The production had to actually register the modified Gazelle helicopters with the Federal Aviation Administration under these tail numbers for legal flight operations. The FAA initially rejected the registration because the heavy modifications made the aircraft non-standard. The production had to provide extensive engineering documentation, proving the modified Gazelles remained airworthy before registration was approved. This bureaucratic process delayed filming by 6 weeks and cost approximately $80,000 in engineering analysis and legal fees. Ironically, the tail number chosen for realism created real regulatory headaches. After filming, when the helicopters were sold, the new owners had to re-register them under different tail numbers, erasing Blue Thunder's fictional identity. Number 1. Blue Thunder launched the short-lived TV series that used none of the film's helicopters. Blue Thunder's success spawned a television series that premiered in January 1984, less than a year after the film. The TV series faced an impossible challenge: replicating the film's helicopter on a television budget. The film's modified Gazelles cost over $2 million and required extensive support infrastructure. A weekly television series couldn't afford this. The TV production made a radical decision: abandon the Gazelle entirely and use a completely different helicopter. They chose the Aerospatiale AS500 Ecureuil, a larger, more modern helicopter that was easier to fly and maintain. The AS355 was painted to vaguely resemble Blue Thunder, but looked noticeably different to anyone familiar with the film. Fans immediately noticed the switch. The TV helicopter was bigger, shaped differently, and moved differently than the film version. The series tried to explain this as Blue Thunder Mark II, an upgraded version, but this satisfied nobody. The TV series lasted only 11 episodes before cancellation. Multiple factors contributed to its failure, but using a completely different helicopter destroyed the connection to the successful film. The AS355 used in the series still exists and occasionally appears at air shows, identified as the TV Blue Thunder to distinguish it from the film's Gazelles, most of which were eventually scrapped or sold to private owners. The Blue Thunder soared beyond 1980s action spectacle to become a landmark in practical aerial filming. From vacuum cleaner sound effects to deliberately weakened rotor blades, every frame represented innovation, danger, and obsessive attention to detail that modern CGI can't replicate. The Gazelle that became a cinematic icon proved that sometimes the best special effects are real helicopters doing impossible things.